what's up guys, it's Teddy here from Rotary Creations and DIY, and I'm going to show you the first and most important thing that you need to know about your Dremel tool, and surprisingly it's your user manual. This is packed full of information that you can use 24/7 while using your Rotary tool. It has maintenance information and also information about all the different types of bits and everything. So you don't make those mistakes while being a novice like I did. Like, I started a great project, then I switched a bit and I didn't know how to use it and I screwed the whole thing up. So don't make those mistakes, and we're gonna dive right into this. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so this is your Dremel operating manual. I have an operating manual for 4000, but if you have any kind of Dremel or Rotary tool, you need to look at your operations manual. This is going to be very important in how you operate your Dremel tool and taking care of it also. So turning over to the first page, as always, we got safety rules and warnings. You want to read at least some of these. You want to kind of skim over these to know what you need to do in terms of protection or how to handle the Dremel. So one of my most important ones, I think, is kickback. Just like a table saw or any circular saw, if you're cutting into something at the wrong speed or pinching or snagging, like it says, you can get kickback and it actually hurt you. It tells you how to maintain a firm grip. That's very important. The tool can get away from you. You need to make sure that you have absolute control over the rotary tool that you're operating. So let's go to the next page. Alright, it's going to tell you about some of the symbols that they're using here. Alright, and here's just a quick overview of the few parts of your Dremel. We don't really need to look too much at that. One thing is knowing how to loosen and tighten your Dremel collet nut. You want to make sure you pay attention to that. Fixing stuck collets. If you have a brand new Dremel, right when mine came out of the package, I used it and I got a implement stuck in the collet. And easiest way to prevent that is, let's say we take our easy twist wrench here. So you press your lock button and you've untwisted this some, but the bits say won't move. What you're going to do is keep holding your button down, of course, and you're going to push the bit in. Now if it's on fire, if it's red hot, or if it's warm to the touch, I suggest getting a piece of cloth or a glove on and then pushing it down. But when you push it down, that's going to push the collet down, so that way it's not stuck in the tip of your Dremel tool. So that's an important thing to note, because it usually happens with first time Dremel use until you wear it in a little bit. Okay, let's see here. Don't need to know much of that. It's going to tell you about maintenance information and changing your brushes. You need to pay attention to that, and also when you should replace your wheel brushes and stuff like that. Alright, so now we get to the really fun part, and this is telling you all about your bits and kind of a snippet of how to use them and what to use them for. So like, here's your collets. You'll want to know about that. I know for a fact, first thing that people are going to use is a spiral cutter. They're going to use that, and then also engraving bits, if you can see that. Okay, and they're going to use those right off the bat. I know I did. And you'll want to read this little bit of information about your bits, such as the engraving cutters. And you'll want to read it here, and where it says, where it defines it in talks about it, and it says, this group has a wide variety of sizes and shapes and are made for intricate work on ceramics or greenware, wood carvings, jewelry, and scrimshaw. And it says they are often used in making complicated printed circuit boards. And then it goes to say what you shouldn't use them on, and it says they should not be used on steel and other very hard materials, but are excellent on wood, plastic, and soft materials. And it's a 1/8 shank, obviously. So you need to know that, because if you didn't know any better, you might be trying to use an engraving cutter instead of like a diamond burr or something like that, kind of like this, to engrave or cut something. You know, if you want to do some really intricate engraving, like maybe you want to even write inside a ring just a few letters, you'd want to use one of these little bitty diamond tips that are real nice and sharp, and also they're engineered for that, so that way you don't use a wood cutting tool and you just totally mess up jewelry. So that's one thing to take important note of. Thankfully I didn't make that mistake and didn't screw up one of my rings or something with that. But you really want to read about what bits you have here and what bits you might need to buy, because this will help you decide, like if you're on doing a project with something and you're like, well, I don't necessarily have the right bit or tool to do this. Well, you could go look in your manual and see what you could use it for. Like maybe you don't need an engraving cutter, but sorry about that, but you need a high-speed cutter. So very simple to just save your time, look inside the manual instead of buying something that you don't need or not knowing what you need to buy, and then you put it off for a long time. Another important thing is how to use your bristle brushes. It shows you the correct and the incorrect way, or that's backwards, but it shows you the correct and the incorrect way. This is going to save life and time on your brushes, so that way you don't have that big problem of you know, you're wearing them down before you even get all the use out of them. So here's one of our main bits, the spiral cutting bit, and you want to realize it says use with Dremel number 565 and 566 cutting guide attachment. So I think one of them is this routing attachment. Yeah, you use routing bits with it, but this is also going to help you cut straight lines, cut circles out, whatever it may be. Also, let me see if I can grab one of my other tools from a little tool chest here. Here's one of the others that you would use it for, and this is a hole cutter. So pretty much you this is flipped over when you use it, but this is going to help you cut exact holes, and you'll be using the spiral cutting bit. You won't be using a drywall cutting bit. Make sure you look at those and notice the difference in the way the cutting threads are on them. So you want to be sure that you are using the right bits with the right tools. So that's very important to notice. All right, so next page, it's going to show you how to replace screw mandrel accessories. You want to read that at least a little bit, or just glance over it, or unless you've had tools before, this is pretty much plain and simple, but you also don't want to mess anything up. It shows you how to operate the easy lock mandrel. I say that's very important. This little thing is tough, and let me see if I can find mine. I don't even know where I put it. Well, I don't have it right here, but anyways, yeah, it's a pretty tricky thing to change, but that could help you out too. All right, so here's the most important part, I believe, and second most important aside from knowing what your bits are, and this is what speeds to use your bit at. So my Dremel here goes all the way up to 35,000 RPMs with the dial knob. So most things that we're going to be cutting in this YouTube channel, we're going to be using at the highest speed. We may use low speed on a certain few things, but we need to go high speed for most of our stuff since we'll be using hardwoods mostly until we do special projects with softwoods. But, sorry about that. Say you don't know what speed you're going to be using your spiral cutter at. That's when you need to take your user manual and look into it, find the part number of the spiral cutting bit. You'll probably have to look that up online. But once you find the part number of it, you can then match it up with the speed settings table. And you'll see here, for most of these, cutting hardwoods with high-speed cutters, which is what one of these is a high-speed spiral cutting bit. And you'll see that for cutting hardwood, almost every one of these needs 25 to 35,000 RPMs. So you want to pretty much be more safe than sorry and just go up to the max speed you can if you're cutting hardwood. It's going to save you time, and you don't want to mess up one of your projects, keeping it too low. So don't be scared of the Dremel. It's not going to kill you if you have a good grip on it and you're using the right tools. I suggest using the routing tool because it's just going to give you that extra stability. When you're cutting a piece of wood, you can make that straight line with it. So a tip that I found useful, I haven't done it, but I kind of know everything about my Dremel. But say we're going to use an engraving cutter. Say you go back here and you're like, oh, well, here's my engraving cutter, so I need to go look for the table that goes with. So as you can see here, I got table number 2. So then I go back over here, and then, here's table number 1, number 3, number 4, and here's table number 2. So then you can match the number of your engraving cutter, or you could even highlight. You could take a highlighter and highlight what tool number it exactly is so you can use it with all the exact right specs. But most of all of these are pretty much the same because we're going to be using wood mostly, and plastics we won't be using very much. Steel we won't be using very much, but other than that, it could help you a lot and just kind of make it quicker. You can go online and find the Dremel manuals for free, the PDFs of them, and you could download them and print this out on a Word document, and either you could what is it, laminate or something like that. Yeah, you could then laminate it in the plastic so that way it doesn't get tore up, and you just have a quick, easy way to look at what bits you're using and such, and how fast you should be using them. That's going to keep you from getting kickback and messing up one of your projects that we'll be doing. So they got more speed settings. So they got chainsaw, sharpening stones, cutting accessories, polishing accessories, wire brushes, sanding bands, all of it to tell you how to use it for whatever material you should be using it for, or relatively close to the material you should be using it for. So, and then last page of the section is then Spanish. So we don't need that. That's just restarting the manual over. So I advise you taking this, these tables. We're going to mostly be using kind of these tables right here with the plain stuff on them, and going back and finding, writing, and learning the part numbers of, like, such as your engraving cutter, your high-speed cutter, your screw mandrel, and most of them it tells what they are, like screw mandrel number 401. So then you could go and see what you can use that for. But other than that, I can't urge how important it is that you at least go and glance at your Dremel manual. It's going to keep you from making mistakes of having something on too low of a speed. Like such as if I took this engraving cutter and I wanted to engrave my name into this table, if you took it and put it on 15 or 20,000 RPMs, say if I was making the letter U, yeah, I'm cutting good going in one direction, but as soon as I start turning, it catches grip and then runs all over the table. And then you got a messed up table or you have a messed up project. You don't want to run into that issue. You want to turn it on as high as it can go, so that way it's just eating it away and it has no worry of it getting away from you or trying to, you know, escape or anything. One other thing is I would advise, if you're using a Dremel for the first time, if you don't think your hands are steady enough, you want to get one of these. This is the engraving grip tool, and it's going to help you a lot. Let's see. And I'll put it on there to show you what it looks like, so that way, you know, you don't have any problems. But let's take this off real quick. And then let's slide this on, and it's gonna go this way. Make sure you don't put it backwards thinking you can use it like that. That would be ridiculous, but everyone makes mistakes, which is all fine. And then you're gonna take the screw or the nut and tighten it on here. And it also has a little bit of flex in it too, which I find kind of useful, so that way, you know, when you're pressing down on something, it has a little bit of flex so you can control it real easy. So I think that's actually pretty useful depending on what you're doing. But you'll want to go and get one of these if you think your hands aren't steady enough, because it just gives you that good, I would say fist grip. You know, it's not getting away from you. You can very intricately cut along something having no problems. If I was to say the main accessories you need to get with your Dremel when you first get it is an engraving handle and this routing implement that you'll want to be using. This is very important. It's helped me out with a lot of things. It's how I cut out most of my stuff, because it just gives you that extra protection when you're cutting something, and that ease of handling it. You don't have to worry about it getting away from you. You just have that extra grip on it. So just a few pointers, and really just this is the first thing you need to read before you go and mess up one of your projects, or say you don't know something, because, you know, I can sometimes forget to say things in a video, such as the speed that you're going to be using something at. So just know it's usually pretty high. So yeah, so if you have any more questions, something that I didn't specify or such, you can comment down below, because I do know some of the Dremel stuff can get confusing, but there's also a lot of online help, and you can get help from Dremel themselves. They're really cool people, or whatever Rotary tool you have. But I think you could call Dremel if you just have a Rotary tool. I mean, all this stuff's pretty much the same. A lot of it's the same. But yeah, so I advise getting one of these. It's gonna save you lots of time, effort. Yeah, so pretty much read your drill manual, so that way you don't make the mistakes that I made, because I sure did screw up one of my projects when I was working on them, and it this thing helped me fix that problem. So hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Also share it with your friends if they have a Dremel or if they're just now buying one and they don't know how to use it, I think I could provide a lot more information too of things to use it for, how to help you, and stuff like that. So, you know, leave comments, subscribe. I'm really trying to get this channel up and running. And probably by tonight I'll be uploading another video of how to make a wooden ring, but in this one I'm going to do a voiceover, so it'll be a little less long for sure. So yeah, tell your friends about it and recommend me to people, because that could really help, and I could really help some people. I like helping people. So if you have any questions, leave a comment.